John. Deep in the foggy heart of Tennessee, a story whispers through the trees, a tale so chilling, it's not just a legend. It stands as America's most documented and unsolved paranormal case. This is the story of the Bell family, whose quiet life was shattered one fateful night. It all began when the patriarch, John Bell, encountered a bizarre creature in his fields. A beast with the body of a dog, but the head of a rabbit. That strange sighting was only the beginning. Soon, the peaceful silence of their home was broken. Scratching sounds echoed from within the walls, followed by a guttural gnawing from under their beds. Then came the whispers, a disembodied voice that knew their names and their deepest fears. This was no ordinary haunting. This entity was a physical force, a malevolent presence that could slap them, pull their hair, and viciously drag the youngest daughter, Betsy, right out of her bed. It was a relentless, invisible tormentor. And then it began to speak. The entity revealed its name, Kate. It claimed to be a spirit hell-bent on vengeance, focusing its most vicious attacks on John and Betsy. For years, Kate tormented the family, its voice growing stronger, taunting them and any visitors who dared to witness the phenomena. The haunting became so famous that even future President Andrew Jackson allegedly visited the farm, only to be driven away by the spirit's power. The entity's cruelty escalated, turning the family's home into a prison of fear. But Kate did something unprecedented in the history of paranormal events. It claimed responsibility for a murder. In 1820, John Bell died under mysterious circumstances, and the spirit openly boasted that it had poisoned him. His death was officially attributed to the actions of a spirit, making this a truly unique case. So, what was Kate? A curse laid upon the family? The restless soul of a wronged neighbor? Or was it something far more sinister? An ancient entity tied to the land itself, still waiting in the shadows of Tennessee for its next chance to speak. This haunting mystery has never been solved, leaving us with a terrifying question. What would you do if the walls of your own home began to speak back? Thanks for watching. If you're fascinated by the unexplained, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more dives into the darkness. See you next time. In the early 1800s, in the dense forests of Tennessee, the Bell family lived a life untouched by time. John Bell, his wife Lucy, and their children enjoyed the simple pleasures of farming. The air was fresh, the birds chirped merrily, and the days passed with quiet contentment. But as the evening sun began to set behind the hills, a strange presence was awakening, one that would change their lives forever. At first, it was easy to dismiss the strange occurrences. The scratching sounds on the walls, the whispers in the night. The family thought it was just animals or the wind. But these noises were different. They came from within the house, from places no living thing should be able to reach. As the days passed, the Bell family could no longer ignore the growing feeling that something was watching them. Then, the voice came. It was soft at first, like a whisper, almost indistinguishable from the wind. But then it grew louder, clearer, more deliberate. "I am Kate Batts," it said, a voice full of hate and bitterness, filled with a promise of revenge. And the Bell family could do nothing but listen in terror as the spirit took shape in their home. The entity's presence grew stronger. No longer was it content to merely torment. It began to physically attack. John Bell, the father, was the first to suffer the full brunt of its wrath. He awoke one morning, unable to speak, his face frozen in a grotesque mask of pain. His body seemed to wither before their eyes. The Bell family realized far too late that they were at the mercy of something far beyond their understanding. John Bell's death marked the end of the terror ... but not its conclusion. The Bell Witch, satisfied with the death of her tormentor, promised to return. 107 years later, her curse would find new victims. The family was left broken, their lives forever scarred by a presence they could never fully understand. In Villisca, Iowa, the Moore family was beloved by all. Josiah and Sarah, their 4 children, and 2 young guests had lived peaceful lives. The house, a simple wooden structure, was filled with love and laughter. But all that would change in the dead of night. But in the shadows of the night, someone was watching. A figure, cloaked in darkness, approached the Moore household. Quiet as a ghost, he crept through the town, seeking his prey. There would be no warning, no mercy. The killer entered the house in silence, axe in hand. In the darkness of the night, the Moore family was slain one by one. The axe fell without mercy, and the house filled with screams, then silence. The killer had finished his work. It wasn't until morning that the town discovered the horror that had taken place. Neighbors knocked on the door, but there was no answer. As they entered, they were met with the unimaginable. The Moore family was gone, butchered in their sleep. In February 1959, 9 experienced hikers set out on what was supposed to be an adventurous skiing expedition in the Ural Mountains of Soviet Russia. Led by Igor Dyatlov, they were well prepared, highly skilled, and excited to conquer the challenging terrain. This was supposed to be just another expedition, until something far darker than the harsh winter winds followed them into the mountains. As the group ascended the mountains, they began to feel a strange unease. The weather was harsher than expected, the winds stronger, and the atmosphere heavier. Unseen eyes seemed to be watching them, and the trail was harder to follow than they remembered. Even more unsettling were the lights in the sky, glowing, erratic lights that danced above the horizon, seemingly teasing the hikers. But it wasn't the cold or the strange lights that would kill them. It was something far worse. That night, something unimaginable happened. The hikers' tent was found torn open from the inside, as though they had fled in sheer panic. Their belongings were left behind: ski poles, cameras, and shoes, scattered in the snow as if they had been abandoned in haste. But it wasn't the tent or their belongings that left investigators in shock. It was the hikers' bodies. Some were found with horrific injuries, like broken ribs and skull fractures, as though they had been struck by a powerful force. But there were no external wounds. And most chilling of all, their eyes were missing. Their tongues had been removed. What had happened on that night in the mountains? What force could have caused such terror? The Soviet authorities launched a thorough investigation, but the answers they sought were elusive. The injuries to the hikers were inconsistent with anything they had ever seen. There were no signs of an avalanche, and no obvious cause for the brutal injuries. Yet the mystery deepened. Some of the hikers' clothing was found to be radioactive. Others had been exposed to extreme temperatures, but were found with strange burns on their skin. Was this a military experiment gone wrong? Or something far beyond human understanding? To this day, the Dyatlov Pass incident remains one of the most chilling mysteries in the world. Was it an attack by a Yeti, a secret military experiment, or something more supernatural? No one knows for sure. The case was closed, but the questions remain. And as time goes on, the eerie silence of the Ural Mountains seems to hold the answers that we may never uncover.